Hey ladies, welcome to this week's education. Today I would like to chat to you about what to do if the scales get stuck. And before you all tell me that your scales have been stuck for 2 days, I'm speaking about a fortnight-ish, alright? So, I'm going to tell you a wee story. First of all, I'm in a fat loss phase, as you all know. Same as you are, or most of you are, alright? Now, I have been stuck, and I literally mean stuck, between 155 and 156 for 3 weeks. Frustrating? Yes. I feel your pain, my lovelies. So, I went back through, this was on Friday, I went back through my food diary, my MyFitnessPal, for the last couple of weeks, right? And because, right, firstly, I knew, right, because I'm a coach, because I'm a fat loss coach, because I actually know what I'm doing, right, I knew that there would be something that was making me stick, right? Now, I knew I was in a big enough calorie deficit, all right? I was in 1,800 calories, 1,810 calories I'm on every day, right? Which is absolutely fine. My maintenance is about 2,350, right? So I'm in a deficit. It's absolutely cool, right? A good 500 calorie deficit per day, right? It's grand. And that deficit got me from about 161 to 156, right? And then I stuck for 3 weeks, right? And it was so frustrating. But I also know that when it's frustrating and the scales stick, that's when we get a bit lazy and we maybe start doing things that we're not really aware of, or some other things, habits, drop by the wayside. All right. So I went through my food diary and I had a look. Right now, two things stood out. The last 3 weekends, we've had a Sunday dinner. Right, nothing wrong with a Sunday dinner, right? Gigantic Yorkshire pudding, some kind of meat, some kind of veg. Don't think we've had tatties actually. And right, so it was all tracked, right? It was all logged and it was all tracked. Was it weighed? It absolutely was not. I could tell you the exact calories of the gigantic Yorkshire pudding, 386 or something, right? However, the veg would have been weighed actually. No, in fact, that's an absolute lie, because it would have been, and it was probably carrots. It would have been in as medium carrots. And the meat was not weighed, because the meat was weighed before it was cooked. And then it was a rough guesstimate as to how many slices I was having, right? Or whatever the weight was per slice, right? So that wasn't particularly accurate. The other thing that I'd noticed was that I'd been eating half a tin of chicken soup, which is fine, and a ham sandwich, which is also fine for my lunch, all right? But I had been eating that half a tin of chicken soup and a ham sandwich on white sourdough bread for about 3 weeks, right? And yep, lo and behold, that coincided with when the scales got stuck, right? So on Friday there, it's now Wednesday, on Friday there, I made a proper plan for the weekend with food that I could actually weigh and measure. So I knew exactly what I was eating. So on Saturday, Cal made chicken curry. I love how I make the plan and decide that Cal's cooking. But Cal made chicken curry, all right? It's the Mayflower curry powder, right? It's super low calories. It's a massive bowl. It's got peas in it. It's got onions in it. It's got chicken in it. It's got curry sauce. And we have it with a little 60-gram bag of prawn crackers out of Tesco, all right? So we split the bag. So easy to weigh, easy to measure, easy to calorie count, no bother whatsoever, right? On Sunday, I made a steak fajita bowl. And again, the steaks, it's just can't remember what kind of steak, it's like minute steak. That's not called that. Can't remember what it's called. It's quite a non-fatty one, all right. And everything else was, I could weigh out basically, right. So there was rice in it. There was roasted peppers and onions, which I'd done in the air fryer. There was taco beans out of a tin, which we just heated up and shared. And I made homemade guacamole as well, so I could measure that. I could measure the tomatoes, I could weigh the avocado, etc., right? So it was totally on point, right? Also, the second thing that I did was that on Saturday and Sunday afternoon, I've had this conversation with you so many times, ladies, about weekends, right? But on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, about 3:30, 4 o'clock, right, I can sometimes really struggle just with the slumps and the chocolate cravings, right? So I made a massive conscious effort to force myself to eat a protein yogurt both those days, right? So sometimes on a Saturday and a Sunday, most of the time, to be fair, my afternoon snack on a Saturday and a Sunday, right, I'll not eat it. It'll just disappear, right? But inevitably, I'll have an extra bit of chocolate or something, right? And it'll go in my Fitness Pal as a protein yogurt because I'll have put it in as a protein yogurt the day before. And then I'll be like, I just need a bit of chocolate, right? So I made a conscious effort not to do that. So that's a habit, again, that I've been doing that I haven't really been worrying about because I'm like, I've got 1,800 calories, blah, 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 right? So anyway, sorry that. So stepped on the scales on Monday morning. Oh my word, 154.8. Right now, very rarely will my scales be lower on a Monday morning than they are on a Saturday and a Sunday, right? I don't know about yourselves, but there's a pattern that usually works for me, right? If I am all over it, right, and I'm totally on point with my food, with my weighing, with my tracking, my lowest weights of the week are a Wednesday and a Saturday, right? It's just the way it is, right? That's how my body works, and that's what works for me, all right? Then the scales will creep up on the Sunday and they will usually be up again on the Monday, right? And I know it's because of the salty Sunday dinner, right? And fat loss, you all know this, right? Fat loss is about a calorie deficit. Of course it is. Everything else that we work on together is to make it easier for you to stick to that calorie deficit, all right? It's the calorie deficit, right? But the quality of your calories do matter, right? And there are fitness coaches and fat loss coaches out there on social media and wherever else, right, that will tell you that they do not, right? They do. They will tell you that as long as you're eating in a calorie deficit, blah, 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 right, you will lose body fat. It is not that simple because we all react differently, right? My body and my scales don't react particularly well to white bread. I've had a slice of it every day and I mean a sourdough slice, so it's like a big slice, I'm trying to think, 110 grams, maybe 111 grams. Right, so it's a big slice of sourdough. So my body and my scales don't react. I'm not allergic, I'm not intolerant. They just hang on to everything when I have bread, right? So I've been having that every day. The second thing is Sunday dinners, right? By the time you add gravy and roasted meat, etc., right? It's usually beef or pork or ham, right? It can be quite salty. And again, it makes you retain water. Add that in with my laziness over my snacks on my afternoon snacks on Saturday and Sunday, right? The scales they've just been stuck. So effectively what I've been doing is the scale weight's been jumping up over the weekend and it's taken me the rest of the week to lose it. Scale weight jumps up at the weekend, takes me the rest of the week to get it back down again, all right? It's common. But anyway, the whole point of this conversation is that if your scales are stuck, there will be something that you will be doing that's not helpful, and there'll be other things that you maybe used to do that have fell by the wayside, right? So the reason I have been eating chicken soup and a ham sandwich every day for the last 3 weeks is because I did not have the brain capacity to actually go and figure something out. I couldn't deal with it, all right? I was just busy. I just didn't have the brain. Well, for whatever reason, right? I didn't have the brain capacity. So when the scales feel stuck, right, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to remember that it's not necessarily that the scales aren't working. This is usually the point where consistency has slightly went for a burden, right? And I'm not saying this is a conscious decision. It's not a conscious decision. I wasn't doing it consciously, but I am aware that it does happen, even though I wasn't doing it consciously. I was totally in denial, right? Had no brain capacity, etc., right? So you can't control the scales. You know this. All you can do is follow the process and control the actions that you take to follow that process. You all know this, ladies. I bang on about this all the time, all right? But when progress slows, right, or the scales get stuck, remember I'm speaking about a fortnight at least when the scales get stuck, right? It's usually the habits that surround that that have maybe disappeared, or you've got a bit lazy with, or you don't have the brain capacity to think about it or check about it. All right. So this is the time to go back to basics, right? So do what I did. Go back your MyFitnessPal since the scales got stuck and just check everything. All right. Another thing that a lot of people are guilty of when they're scanning foods on MyFitnessPal, or when they're entering foods on MyFitnessPal, there'll be a lot of 100 grams, 100 grams, 100 grams, 100 grams, a cup, right? We never eat 100 grams of anything. Like a tin of tuna is 100 and, I can't remember. I think that's actually 56 grams. I can't remember. Anyway, right? And we never eat cups. A cup is actually quite a lot, all right? So just be careful, all right? So go back to basics, go back to your MyFitnessPal, see if you can see a pattern, see if you can see if anything's happening over the weekend. Do you remember any food sneaking in that you haven't actually tracked? That could also happen, all right? Go back to weighing, go back to measuring. I absolutely do not expect you to weigh and measure your food every single day of the week for the rest of your life. But you need to do it enough to get used to a portion size so that you can eyeball the portion size. But at some point, that portion size will increase. It will, of course it will. Like 30 grams of oats. Yeah, 30 grams of oats, then it'll sneak up to 35 grams, then it'll be 40 grams, then it'll be 45 grams. Before you know it, you're eating 60 grams of oats and log in 50 grams of oats. I'm just saying oats as an example, all right? So going back and weighing and measuring just for a week, right, will make a massive difference. Next, I want you to shake things up. If you've been eating the same meals on repeat, which to be fair, I do most of the time, but I want you to look at the quality of those calories. So the quality of those meals, all right? Now, chicken soup is out of tin. It's crossing back Blackwell chicken soup that I eat, right? It's quite salty. It doesn't taste quite salty, but it's got a high salt count, all right? That, along with a gigantic slice of sourdough, doesn't matter whether it's tracked or not, right? It is tracked and it is weighed and the calories are accounted for, but I do not react well to bread. I love it. But, sorry, I'm absolutely fine with bread. The scales do not react very well to bread, all right? So it was time for me to cut that out. So on Sunday, I cooked extra of my steak fajita bowl and had that for my lunch on Monday. Again, when I got on the scales on Tuesday morning, my scales were down from 154.8 on Monday morning to 154.2 on Tuesday morning. I then decided that I wasn't going back to the chicken soup, so I went and bought myself some roasting veg in a tray, some cooked chicken breasts, and I bought something else. Chicken breast, roasted veg, and some sweet potatoes. So I baked a whole batch of sweet potatoes, right? So yesterday and today I had sweet potatoes, weighed out my sweet potato, obviously, chicken breast and roasted vegetables, and a little 30 grams of Philadelphia garlic and herbs on top of that, just as a wee sauce thing, all right? So I had that yesterday. Scales this morning, 153.6, right? So that has literally taken me Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days of brain space and 4 days of different food, and I've managed to get the scales to shift by 2 pounds. Yeah, do you get what I'm saying? There's always something that we can do. There will be a reason, even though you can't control the scales, right? There will be a reason. Something will have slipped for whatever reason, all right? So it's time to get your brain engaged and think up some new meals. And in your new meals, just make sure you're weighing them, all right? Bulk up your plates with loads and loads of vegetables, all right? Also, the other thing is, when I was eating chicken soup and my ham sandwich, it was amazing, by the way. Was there any veg in that? No, there was not. I have fruit for my breakfast, I have fruit as a snack, and I have a gigantic salad, a gigantic salad for my dinner, all right? So my portions of fruit and veg, in all fairness, was probably sitting at about 4. So if I add that in for my lunch, I'm now sitting at about 6. So that does help as well, all right? Keeps me fuller, gets me through the afternoon slumps, which is always good because it keeps me out the Nutella jar without pushing the calories up, all right? Think about, on top of all of this, think about your water. Where's your water? Has your water dropped? Have you been a bit lazy with your water? Are you still training, exercising, moving your body and walking as much, if not more so, than you were when we first started working together? Remember, the calories that I give you, right, are based on the exercise and the activity that you tell me you are doing. So if that's dropped back a bit, that deficit will be less. So that will affect the scales as well, all right? It's time just to reflect, to be honest with yourself, and to decide whether you're actually doing the habits that you're ticking on the habit tracker, all right? Finally, final, and I don't want you all doing this anyway without letting me know, all right? Cut 40 calories off your daily calories, right? 40 calories. And the reason for that is 40 calories will not make that much of a difference, right? But it's a big enough difference to make you go away and rethink your meals and rethink your snacks. That is my top tips, ladies, all right? So if the scales are stuck, we call it a plateau in the fitness industry, all right? If the scales are stuck, it's just giving you, it's just the process giving you a bit of feedback. It's just the process booting you up the arse and saying, do you know what? Am I actually being as strict and as disciplined as I'm telling my coach that I am? I'm putting my hands up, all right? I was not, but I didn't have the brain capacity. I have the brain capacity. And lo and behold, scales have dropped a couple of pounds, which is amazing, all right? So it's just a reminder, refocus, recommit, trust the process, all right? Because the process that you've been following has got you to where you are. So the process does work. It's just a little sticking block. And as always, if you need anything, give us a shout. All right, bye-bye.